Shir Ma'alot Sinai Ha'arim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'im Hashem Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz Halitem Lamot Raglecha Ayanu Shorecha Hine Yanu Lo Ishan Shomer Yisrael Hashem Shorecha Hashem Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha Yonam Hashemesh Lo Yakekach V'yareach B'layla Hashem Yishmorecha Mikol Ra Yishmor et nafshecha Hashem Yishmor tzedcha u'voecha Me'ata ve'ad olam Me'ata ve'ad olam Shir Ma'alot Sinai Ha'arim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Be'im Hashem Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz Halitem Lamot Raglecha Ayanu Shorecha Hine Yanu Lo Ishan Shomer Yisrael Hashem Shorecha Hashem Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha Yomam Hashemesh V'yakekach V'yareach B'layla Hashem Yishmorecha Mikol Ra Yishmor et nafshecha Hashem Yishmor tzedka u'voecha Me'ata ve'ad olam Me'ata ve'ad olam.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining Jane of Canada today for a very special Yom HaZikaron ceremony. Today we remember the nearly 24,000 who lost their lives during active duty in Israel's armed forces and the victims of terror during Israel's 73 years of existence. Yom HaZikaron will begin at 8 p.m. Israel time on April 13th. With the sounding of a 1-minute siren during which the entire nation of Israel will stop and stand in silence, commemorating the fallen and showing respect. This will be followed by a 2-minute siren at 11 a.m. on April 14th. For 24 hours, life in Israel will be different. Regular television programs cease for the day, and the ranks of every soldier who died in Israel will be displayed. Families will visit the graves of loved ones, and many ceremonies are held throughout the country. Although this is a day of great sadness, it is also meant to be a celebration of life, and is followed by Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel's Independence Day. the order of things is meant to remind Israelis of the price paid for their independence. It is with great honor and respect that JNF Canada is hosting today's program. Whether we live in Canada or Israel, it is important for us to remember all those who lost their lives for a country we value so dearly, our homeland, Israel. Today, we'll be hearing from two speakers, Anat and Oded. They will share with you the memories of the ones they have lost. It is my honor to introduce our first speaker, Anat Farkash. Anat moved to Toronto, Canada at a young age with her parents from Israel. Her family being of Ukrainian and Hungarian descent, the significance of Israel was a major part of her upbringing. Anat and her husband had two children, Tom and Amit. After some time, they decided to move back to Israel. Growing up in Toronto, Tom always felt connected to Canadian culture even after moving to Israel. Tom would eventually enlist in the Israeli army and become a helicopter pilot. In 2006, during the Second Lebanon War, Tom died while serving the nation he loved most, and Anat had to say goodbye to her eldest child. Anat will share with you the precious moments of Tom's life and the essence of who he was. This segment is not live as Anat is presently at the Air Force Base where Tom served. So let us all together remember Tom and hear the words of his mother, Anat. So hi everyone, we are joined today with Anat Farkash. Anat, thank you so much for joining us today. I would love it if you could start just by talking a little bit about the introduction of Yom HaZikaron and the importance of the holiday to the Israeli nation and to your family in particular.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for honoring my son on this occasion. It's a very humble moment for us to have Tom commemorated specifically within the Jewish community in Canada. Even he is Canadian born, and he had extremely strong ties to Canada. He always felt half Israeli, half Canadian, or actually half Canadian and then half Israeli. It's very moving and touching for me to be able to speak about him and his life. Yom HaZikaron in Israel actually starts about a month before Passover. For us, the families of the fallen soldiers, we get a lot of calls and we have a lot of people, especially in my case, who want to talk about honoring Tom's memory, want to talk about, participating in various community ceremonies to commemorate the fallen soldiers. For us, it's a moment where we're taken out of our private grief into more of a national grief. In Israel, Yom HaZikaron is a very, very strong, very significant day for all the citizens of Israel, because I don't think there is probably one family that has not encountered some sort of loss of the 72 years that we are here as a state, whether it's a friend, a brother, a son, a lover. Everybody's experienced someone they lost along those years. And it's all defined by, is it the Yom Kippur War? Is it the Lebanon War? So I'm here as Tom's mother today. Tom, my son, was killed in 2006. Tom, my son, was killed in 2006 during the Second Lebanon War. He was just an example of what makes up these soldiers that are commemorated these days. People that were willing to risk their lives in order for the rest of us to have the security and the chance to continue our lives in the state of Israel. I think for him, the possibility or the chance to go to the army and do the very best he can in order to ensure the continued and sustainability of the Jewish nation, not just the Jewish homeland, not just Israel and not just Israelis, but Jews all over the world, was a very strong value for him, something that was very important to him. Tom grew up actually Tom was born in Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. And he grew up just like all children in Toronto, Canada, if you can imagine, went to daycare. And when he was in kindergarten, he went to Associated Hebrew School. And then he started wearing his baseball cap. You know, the kippah and the baseball cap. And then I'm telling you the story because when we made Aliyah, when Tom was in grade 3, he continued wearing his baseball cap. And I'd say, Tom, but Israelis don't wear baseball caps. He says, I don't care. I'm Canadian. I'm wearing my baseball cap. And for the next year, he didn't care what anyone said or how funny they thought it was. He continued to be a Canadian. He wanted to wear his baseball cap. My Tom loved life and all it had to offer. He loved having the best time in the bars of Tel Aviv. He loved gourmet food. He liked good whiskey. He loved skiing in the wintertime. He loved going to his uncle's cottage every summer in Canada. Since he was like 10 years old, he would spend his entire summers in Canada at the cottage. That's where he got to become Canadian again. And he was a mixture of this amazing Canadian boy who also became an Israeli young man, loved to hike in the hills of Israel, whether it's the Negev or the north. He loved his Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel, a lot of American folk music, but he also loved the Israeli folk singers. And Tom loved his guitar. I think it was his first love more than anything else. We called it his wife. It was glued to his body like another arm. And every chance he'd get, he'd be playing the guitar and just singing or playing music and saying, Mom, do you recognize this song? Mom, do you recognize this song? And this is a very strong part of Tom that I'd like to commemorate, his love of music. And we do so. We do so every July. He was born on July 18th. And we have a big celebration of his life in our home where we sing Israeli and Canadian American folk songs. And we commemorate the love he had for his life, his friends, his family, and everybody around him. Tom was, I would say, very Zionistic. First of all, he understood what it was like to be a Jew living in the diaspora by virtue of the fact that he grew up in Canada till he was 8. He visited Canada often. He visited my mother, my brother, and many friends that he had in Toronto. But he also knew the background of his family. All of the first generation of his family that he knew, of course, were born in the diaspora, whether it was my parents that came from the Ukraine to Israel, whether it was my husband's parents that came from Hungary and Germany. Some of them actually, made Aliyah before the state of Israel, were made Aliyah because they were Zionist and because they wanted to be part of Israel, and actually had to go through walking across borders, a lot of secret ways of getting into Israel. And I speak about it because we're also commemorating the Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust. And Tom was aware of the Holocaust, aware of the price we paid as a nation. And he visited Poland in grade 11. In Israel, the high school kids have a journey to Poland, to the concentration camps, to the ghettos. And there they learn what it was not to have a homeland. And for Tom, being able to take a part in defending the Jewish homeland and Israel for all Israelis, all citizens, because we all deserve to live in a way that we are not we're not in harm's way. So basically, Tom was aware of Tom's family is very diverse. A little bit about myself is that I was born here in Israel, and at age 7, my family immigrated to Toronto. And when I was 14, I said, I've had enough of this. I understand this, and I want to move back to Israel. I found a family on a kibbutz that fostered me, and I moved to Israel. My kibbutz parents are from Syria and Iraq. My father married a Moroccan woman. So to us, the Farkas family, we're a tapestry that is all of the Jewish diaspora here in Israel. And I think that's a very unique way of growing up, understanding that we all had our challenges living in the diaspora, and that the Jewish homeland enabled us to be proud citizens of the world, people that had somewhere to call home, somewhere they knew that would always protect them no matter where they are. And when Tom was 18 and he was drafted and he had the ability to become a fighter helicopter pilot, it was like a dream come true. He felt that this was, if he could do that, then he could do the best he possibly can to ensure the ongoing and the continuation of Israel for everyone. Tom went through a tough 2-year training course that out of 500 that are recruited to the course, only 45 make it. And being a combat helicopter pilot, different from other pilots in the Army, they were actually in combat 24/7, way before the Second Lebanon War, which Tom was killed in. They were constantly in missions on a day-to-day schedule in Gaza, protecting the citizens of the South from the bombardment of the Hamas on them. Yesterday, they talked on the news about 20 years of bombardments onto the settlements of the south of Israel. Can you imagine living like that? Tom couldn't, and he did everything he can. Him and all his friends did everything they possibly can in order to stop the bombardment as much as they possibly can. July 2006, Tom was supposed to go on a vacation, take his longtime girlfriend, the love of his life, to see his family home in Muskoka, Canada. And the war started, and he decided that he was not going on vacation, and he was staying to fight alongside his squadron, his members of the squadron with his squadron. And the squadron then was started to go into Lebanon to protect and to stop the bombardment of the Hezbollah on the northern settlements of Israel. So between ongoing fighting since he became an active combat pilot, till the day he died, Tom was constantly on missions to protect the country he so loved. And I think it says a lot, not just about Tom, but of all those that do it now, do it every day, and those, especially those that gave their lives. This is why we have Yom HaZikaron. We have Yom HaZikaron in order to say that we remember you, not just that we remember you, but we honor the price that you paid for ensuring our security, our future. And these are the values that Tom lived by. These are the values that we honor on Yom HaZikaron. And it really is important to see, driving along Israel now in the last week, all the intersections are full of Israeli flags. Everybody's getting ready for the 2 days that commemorate the steep price we paid as a nation with the Holocaust, and the price we pay for being a people with a homeland. Just a little bit about the Second Lebanon War. As I said, it started in July. Tom was flying nonstop in Lebanon, above Beirut, seeing a lot of things that no young man of 23 should see. It affected him deeply, but he was truly committed to doing what he possibly could. They were flying around the clock. They were up in the air for 12 hours, getting a few hours of sleep and going up in the air again. July 24th, 2 weeks after his 23rd birthday, Tom was coming back from a mission in Lebanon, and his helicopter had a grave malfunction, and he was killed instantly with another pilot called HaZikaron. He's also a very high-ranking Air Force officer that was supposed to actually be in the command center, and they both decided that they wanted to be in the squadron and do what is needed to do. Tom was killed instantly. He was 23 and 2 weeks old. And it was a very tough moment. As we now have internet, at 11:15, I get a message that a helicopter had been downed, and I called his squadron. And the answers they gave me didn't quite settle with me. And I quickly understood that it must be Tom. I couldn't get a hold of him. So I rushed home. The house filled up with hundreds of people. And we all sat here waiting for 5 hours to have people come and let us know officially that Tom was killed. I kept calling the squadron saying, please come and let me know. Please come and let me know. And when they walked in the door, I screamed at them to go away because I did not want to hear what they had to say. And from that moment, our lives have gone on to a different route. Our lives are filled with the amazing memories and the amazing present of the 23 years we had with our son, Tom, with our brother, with our friend, with our lover, with our grandson, with our nephew. We had 23 amazing years of Tom. Tom, by the way, means naive, good-hearted. And that's why we call him that, pure heart. And we had that pureness in our lives. And we still have it. It cannot go away. It does not go away. Tom is with us every single day of our life. We decided as a family that we wanted to do something for the Israeli society to commemorate his legacy, the values that he believed in. And what we've done is we've established an educational organic mini farm that teaches about the organic movement and the organic farming. We believe that in order to exist, we all have to coexist with nature. We cannot continue using chemicals to grow our food, and we have to find different ways. And there are different ways. A lot of them are Israeli, as I call them, blue and white inventions that protect our plants without using pesticide. And what we do in the farm is we actually host about 5,000 people a year. It's children from age 5 through all the school years, soldiers, people with special needs, adults. They all come to the orchard. It's called Bustan Tom, which means Tom's Orchard. We have tons of olive trees. We have vines. We have a vegetable patch, and we teach about the way we can grow our food with more fairness and sustainability for generations to come. We believe in anything to do with recycling, with the sustainability, with maintaining the land, which without it, we could not live. We couldn't live without our food, air, or water, and that's all due to nature. And we believe the orchard is run primarily by volunteers. It's kind of a value for us because it's based on the value of Tom, which is what can I do for the society I live in. JFK said, do not ask what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? And this is one of the cornerstones of Tom's Orchard, is most of the orchard is run and maintained by volunteers who are instructors there or work in the gardens. And we have about 30 volunteers that come at least once a week. Some of them come more often. And it's a value that takes a lot of maintenance, but it's a value that we hold very dear. And it's a value that, to me, exemplifies or signifies Tom and what he thought his life was all about. We actually teach not just about the sustainability and the coexistence with nature. We talk about the existence of man in a society. I feel that as a Jew and part of the Jewish nation, we all paid a personal and cultural price for the sanctions, the Shoah, and 72 years of war. I ask to honor this awful sacrifice and that ask that we all strive for a just society that does not differ between religious, political, or ethnic backgrounds. We are all one people, and one homeland lets us live our lives with values that will ensure the continued existence of our mutual home, whether we live in Israel or whether we live in Canada.
Wow, Einat, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing Tom's story and how you're keeping his legacy alive to this day. I really thank you so much. I know it must be difficult to share the memories, especially of that day when you lost your son. So I do thank you for joining us today. For the audiences at home, this is pre-recorded because Einat is actually going to be at a ceremony at the Air Force, remembering Tom on this day that will be shown. Einat, do you have any other final words that you want to share with people back home in Canada?
Just that, Canada is very close to our hearts. We welcome anybody from Canada to visit us at the Orchard, Bustan Tom. You can go and see it online. And we are there for anybody that needs a little touch of the Israeli spirit, the spirit of sustainability.
Thank you so much. And I really no words. It was very beautiful, all the words you spoke about Tom. And I'm happy that we're able to remember him on this day today. Thank you so much.
Very much. Thank you.
הולך אני כעת במישור העובר, ילד ההולך לו לאיבוד, כפות ידיים מושטות מבקשות את העזרה, המשיך איתך את המסע. ובצדדים הפרחים כאילו היפתו את זהותם, מחפשים עוד קרן אור שתעזור, לכמעט של מים ממעייני החוכמה, תביא להם את התקווה. הרים ראשי, אשא עיניים במרחקים, וקולי יישמע כזעקה, כתפילת האדם, וליבי יקרא, מאין יבוא עזרי. ואני כעת בין נופים חדשים, צעדים הם נעשים בו איטיים, מה יש שם שאין בו שעל אותי עובר, מה בלב אתה שומר. שישאיר שעל גבו מונח כל המבוא, מצדיק ומחפש את עולמו, שההווה כל כך קשה, לא אומר דבר, הרים ראשי אל המחר. הרים ראשי, אשא עיניים במרחקים, וקולי יישמע כזעקה, כתפילת האדם, וליבי יקרא, מאין יבוא עזרי.
In November 1997, Raz Fromovich enlisted in the Golani Infantry Brigade, but one morning, just 1 year later, Raz was wounded in an explosion at Tel Kiba in Lebanon. He was rushed to Rambam Hospital but died of his wounds at 5:35 p.m. Through his brother, Oded, today we'll get to know Raz, who was the whole world to his family and friends. We'll hear about the moment the family received the devastating news, about a family that one day fell apart, and about a life that was shattered in an instant. Oded will share moments of pain and joy, about the struggle, the hope, and the longing that never ends. Oded will share his story and the story of the State of Israel. Thank you, Oded, for sharing with us today.
Thank you very much, Susie, and shalom, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening for those that maybe in Israel. And I'm really happy to be here today. And if you don't know, Ifat and I know each other for I think like 11 or 12 years. And probably this is the first time we met after 10 years. So it's a great honor. I will share my screen, just a sec. Perfect. So today, as Susie says, I'm gonna share with you my story, my little story, and my family story on this very emotional days that we have in here in Israel. And you heard from Tom, Anat, from Tom's mother. And I call this 25-ish minutes that we are going to talk about, I call it Gray Hours in Other Colors. Because Gray Hours, it's a song that my brother wrote and actually got played on the IDF Israeli radio in the past 2 years. And the other colors, this is what I added because this is our life. And our life really changed. But as you see, we have we change the life in such a way that we live beside the government, and this is the story. This is the story of many other sisters and brothers who lost their siblings. And at the bottom, on the right, you can see the logo of our brothers. And actually, Amit Farkash is also part of this big non-profit organization that established a few years ago in order to give the brothers and sisters, you know, their place, because usually in Israel, the one that are in the front are the parents. And we decided that, you know, it's very interesting to hear a different story in the Israeli society. And actually in the past week, I think probably more than like good hundreds of meetings in Israel and abroad of brothers and sisters that share their point of view about what happened. So before we start, I want to read to you a paragraph that we found, my sister found after my dad passed away. And after this, we will dive in. I will share with you the story. But I think this paragraph that my brother wrote, Raz, is like summing up the person he was. Now, I hope the translation is good, but I think in Hebrew it sounds better. But try to imagine the way it's written in Hebrew. It will be easier. So he wrote in his notebook this paragraph: "There is a lot of forest before discovering the true destiny. I think that despite my young age, 18, it's like few days before he joined the army, I came to the realization of my true destiny. Maybe it's part of a deceptive event, but I think I really found it. It may sound arrogant, but I think my destiny is to make people happy, make them happy in different ways. I make people look within themselves and rediscover themselves, return the smile on their face. I give them back their self-love and recognition of their inner and outer importance. And he finished with this amazing sentence. How does a person know if his mission is complete on Earth, if he's alive? A sign that it's not. So on the right side, you see my family, also on the left side, but this is like, this is my newborn kids and so on, but we'll start on the right side. So this is a picture, like an old picture. And actually when I built this presentation, it's crazy. I couldn't find pictures. Like we have so many pictures these days and it was very hard to find pictures from the 90s. But this picture is like one of the only family pictures that we have. It's from 1995 in our first and last family trip to London and Paris. You can see my mom on the left and my dad on the right. My mom, Miri, she retired. My mom, she retired a few years ago from the Israeli social service after like 30 some years of managerial position. And my dad retired also 4 months ago from Discount Bank. They have, it's in English, it's pretty bad name, Discount Bank, but it's the largest, the third largest bank in Israel. In the middle, you see my sister in a very short, funny hair, like 90s style. And on the right side is my brother Raz, and I'm on the floor. And it was a very, very interesting trip. I remember, I think since then I didn't want to go back to Paris because all my brothers and my sister and brother and my parents wanted is to go to see museums. And I wanted to go and see and looking for toy stores. And since then I never came back because my wife wanted to, but I remember it like as a very annoying and very boring place. And on the left side, it's also my family. You can see Adi. Adi is an educational psychologist. We met actually in my shlichut. I did a shlichut in 2008 and 2010 in Northwest Indiana. On the left side, you can see my oldest, Leah, and the little funny one, Mika, on the bottom. And this is my family. And when we, sorry, a little bit, I think when Raz, when I remember about Raz, like one of my first memories was when, I think it was like about 3.5 years old, when my dad came back home with a puppy, black and white puppy, not this one, this is Bonnie, it's another dog. And I have this picture sitting with my dad and with my brother and my sister in a room full of boxes before we moved from Ramat Gan, where we lived, to Gani Avni near Ashdod. And we debated what would be the name of this dog. At the end, we decided that his name will be Milky. It's an Israeli chocolate creamy treat. And this was one of my first memories of my brother. But my mom, all the time, until today, when she's talking about my brother, Raz, she said that he was kind of a lazy guy, or a dude, or even a children, but not lazy in a bad way. Like he took his time. And she had this story when my brother was on kindergarten, right before first grade. She went to the kindergarten teacher and she told her, "Listen, I don't know what will be with your son. His sister, she's very smart. She already know the alphabet, and she was ready for school. But from Raz, nothing will come out. He don't know his alphabet. It takes his time. We don't know if he's ready." And my mom told her that he's a very special kid. You don't need to compare him to his sister because he do whatever he wants in his own time. And after like 2 months in first grade, in first grade, right after Hanukkah, Raz already knew how to read, and he already started to read Haaretz, as this is what my mom said, already started to read the Haaretz newspaper. And this is something that is very unique for him as well, from my memories, that he was a very, very laid back person. And on the, and you can see on the pictures, this is like from his bar mitzvah, and it was the same story. I mean, everything was, you know, on the last minute. And my relationship with my brother really started to build up when we found both interests, because we have 6 years apart, right? I was in this picture was like 8 years old. He was about 14, and we didn't have, he was older, he was teenager, I was the little guy, I was a pretty annoying brother, wanted to be with the, the older, my older sister and brothers. And we had like a very, a very natural relationship. We fought together. They gave me from time to time to eat some dog food and some maple syrup to drink when they told me it's water or whatever. But we started to share same interests when my brother got his license car license, and then we found it's like a business people, right? He have an interest to get the car from my parents, and I have my interest that he will drive me everywhere. And I was about like 10 years old, 11 years old. He was 17. And since then, we become really, really good friends. And I remember like sitting together, like listening to music. He was like a freak of music, like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and Bob Marley and Prodigy. And we were sitting for hours together, like listening to music and driving together to everywhere. Taking me to my friends and so on. And I have like a lot of memories spending some good time with him. And on the left side, you see the picture on the right side is a picture from Purim, right? You have, they dressed up as cheerleaders. And on the left side, it was the first week after their army, when he joined the army. This was the first weekend when he came back. And my sister also served in Golani Brigade, and he really wanted to serve in Golani Brigade. And also myself, I think since I was like 10 years old, I have this Golani sticker on my notebook, my school notebooks. And my parents really didn't like it, not because they were scared that we are going to the army. We were very, Zionistic family. We really, into giving ourselves to the society and so on. But their problem was that both of them served in the tank brigade, right, in the 70s. And they were really upset that we didn't continue our, their legacy. So my brother wanted to be in Golani Brigade because of my sister. My sister was an officer, and also myself. But you remember I told you that my brother was pretty lazy, right? And my mom all the time told him, listen, you have few months that, before you joining the army, and you need to start, move yourself. You can't sit in your room, listen to music all day, writing, playing with, having a good time with friends. You need to go out like your friends, to run, to exercise. You want to go to, to be a combat warrior. And as he told her when he was, in the first grade, and then the kindergarten said, Mom, there is time to everything. I will join the army, and then I will need to start, train and move, and it will be fine. And he joined the army in the beginning of, in the middle of 1997. And as I told you, we spent a lot of time together. And but since he joined the army, something really changed. I started to feel something different. I didn't know how to explain it. Every time we have, those good laughs and we drove together to somewhere, I started to feel that, something is like stuck in my throat, that something is wrong. I didn't know how to explain it. And on the high holidays of 1998, we went to, you see on the left side, there's like a logo of the 98 Love Parade. He took me, I was like 13 years old. He took me to the first Love Parade in Israel, which turned today to be the one of the biggest gay parade in the probably in the Middle East. We drove to Tel Aviv with one of his best friends, and it was a crazy day. We danced for hours, and it was a really good time. But on the way back, I told him, listen, we drove back with, the windows were open, loud music. And I told him, listen, Raz, it's or you're gonna die from a car accident because you drive like crazy, or you're gonna die in the army. And I was like 13 years old. And a few weeks after, I had this really strange dream. I remember it like it was yesterday. Like we went out of the house in the dream. It was my sister and my parents, and in our backyard there was like a coffin covered with the Israeli flag. And like I remember myself like waking up, really worried about that it was like a really strange dream. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't tell it. I told to my parents about this dream after what happened, but I didn't know how to deal with it. And in 1998, November 16, you see a picture of Power Rangers. It's not it's not just because. It was like a Monday morning, Monday afternoon, and it was the 90s, right? The 90s, like. When you were like a teenager in the 90s, you saw Power Rangers, and I remember myself like sitting in the salon in front of the television watching Power Rangers, and suddenly we got a phone call, and on the phone it was Rassan Elian. I don't know if you heard about his name. Rassan Elian is a very high ranked Druze officer in Israel. He was is also the commander of Golani Brigade, and he was a very good friend of my sister. And he called me. He called the house. My sister was upstairs sleeping, and he said, like, Oded, you must give me the clap. I must talk to her. And I said, like, listen, Rassan, she's asleep. And he was insist of me going up, waking her, and I started to feel that something is wrong. I went upstairs, I told her, listen, Rassan called a few times, wake up, give him a call. Went back, watched my favorite TV show, Power Rangers, and suddenly I hear it's like in the movies, right? You see it in the movies usually, like this knock on the door. And then when I opened the door, I knew that, our life like literally is changing. I called my sister and I told her, listen, we have like 2 officers downstairs. And then she really understand why Rassan called her. And she said, listen, we need to go. The officer told me that Raz told my sister that Raz got hit during his time in Lebanon. Oh, I didn't say, sorry. It was like out of there. So like a week before, 2 weeks before it happened, they went up to Lebanon, right? After a year of service. They were in Lebanon, Israel were in Lebanon from 1982 till 2000. And it was, Raz was one of the last soldiers that were killed in this time. And so they were in Lebanon. They went to an operation, and then it was like afternoon, and then the soldiers came. So we drove to the hospital. in Rambam. And it was a really, really, really long ride. And on the way, I told my sister, listen, I know it's the the worst to come. I don't understand why we are going over there, but I know that that's it. I mean, Raz is is not with us anymore. And we went to the hospital, and we met my parents, and my parents already told us that because my parents, which is another crazy, my parents were in a different memorial service in the center, in Tel Aviv area, and we met them over there, and we met their Rassan and my parents, and they told us that that's it. I mean, he passed away, and my mom told us that he had only one scar, not scar, like only one hit in his brain, but his body was all good. And and they decided. They told us also that they decided to donate his organs and so on. And this is what I will talk about later on. But on the way back, and this is something that also I will never forget. I remember my mom is on the cab. My mom was in the front, and my dad and my sister and myself were sitting in the back. My mom turned back and told us, listen, from here and now we are going up. I mean, we are not sitting still. We're not getting into the sadness, getting into the crazy life-changing events that happen right now. We are moving forward, and I think this sentence literally changed our life. I mean, it was a really, really, really smart and brave decision that my mom took, and this decision changed the way we are today. And this picture is from 2 years ago when there was an article about Adi. My mom was one of the first families. My family was one of the first families in the 90s of soldiers that decided to donate organs. And it was a really, really interesting decision that my mom took. And this is something that really, it became like her mission of life, to make sure that people will have this card and will donate their organs of the ones who they cares about. And this is me in the on the right side when I was a teenager. And to be a teenager for such a crazy family, it is very difficult, because on the one side you need to be very, very, very nice teenager, right? I didn't want to make my parents worried, but on the other side, I was a teenager. I wanted to go and discover and to continue my brother what my brother taught me, and to continue with my way of life. And I remember me as a teenager, my parents used to take me for nature. I was like 16 years old. Take me for like a nature trance parties in the middle of the night in forest. My dad was driving in order to take me and to make sure that I'm safe from one hand, but from the other hand, I was very, very busy to make sure that my parents won't worry about me. And on the left side, you see me as a soldier. And this is a very funny story. Why? Because in Israel, when you are 16 or 17 years old, you already get a message from the army to come to start the process of joining the army. And as I told you, since I was like 9 years old, I wanted to be a Golani warrior and to serve in Golani Brigade, right? It was my dream. It was my dream. It was, this is the society and this is the place we lived in. And I remember me going to the interview, And the lady that interviewed me, she asked me before that, a brother of a son of a government family, they need to have a signature from the parents to be in a combat unit. Okay, so my parents didn't want to give me, of course. So I thought that I will be I'm a teenager. I catch the whole world in my hand, right? I can do whatever I want. So I told this lady, this officer, I told her, she asked me if I'm if I lost my brother or sister, like if I lost siblings in the army. And I told them, no, of course not. I want to be a warrior. I think it took like 2 days when my when the officer in Golani Brigade that is helping families that lost their loved ones in the army, she gave me a call and she told me, Oded, are you crazy? Don't you think that the army knows that you lost your brother in the army? And, and I got like a really, really low score in the tests. And because of that, and I needed to go to an army psychologist because of that. I didn't go at the end. But she told me, you can't do anything in the army. They think that you are, that you have some, you have some self issues that, that you need to solve. So I needed to go through the process again. And then finally I joined the army to intelligence unit in Golani Brigade, in Egoz unit. And I served there for about like 2.5 years. And also I got, and it was, if we are combining the story of Anat Farkash, it was during, I served during the Second Lebanon War. And I got an excellent reward for my service in the army. And it was a really, really interesting, definitely interesting 3 years. And right after my army service, I came to the United States. This is the time that I knew, that I met Ifat. And I decided that I really need to, to go outside of my comfort zone and to explore. First of all, to learn about myself, and second, to learn about the world. And I decided to go through the screening process to be a shaliach. And I think this is one of my most life-changing experience. And the picture above, you can see like the Independence Day, right? It's exactly 11 years ago. And over there, I really realized what is to be Israeli, what is to to be a family that lost someone in the army, and I really gained a lot of experiences and a lot of families that we are like families until today. And this is my family after last year, before the COVID-19, celebrating. You can see my dad, you can see my mom, you can see my sister over here, and my wife, and my sisters, and my parents have like 5 grandkids. 6 is soon to come, because my wife, we are, this is what you said today, right? We are pregnant with a boy soon to come. So we are continue our life aside of what happened. And when I'm telling you, and I didn't really even realize it until I became a father, because every family that lost her loved one, especially in the army, they have their own way to commemorate their son, their sibling, and so on. And we are a very, very private family. By the way, this is the first time I'm doing such a conversation because Ifat asked me, such a talk because Ifat asked me. Because we are usually, we are not doing those stuff. Because, we live in our life, we're living, also if you will come and you're all invited to my home, you won't see a house of sadness or a house of, bereavement. You see a house of happiness. But when I become a father, my oldest, that she's a very, very smart girl. You can see it on the left side, in the middle, Leah. She started to speak in the age of 1. And since she started to speak, she always asking about my brother. And I think since I became a father, I started to speak about my brother like I didn't do before that. And this is the picture from she was almost 5 years old, from last year Passover, not the one that 2 weeks ago, but the one in April 20. And suddenly I see her doing a Passover Seder with my brother. You see a picture of this little kid. And she's sitting there by herself, doing a Passover Seder with my brother, talking to him, explaining to him, you know, her life. She's like literally, you know, having a conversation with him. And I'm really amazed how she make me thinking about, you know, about my brother in a very different way. And yesterday, I will share with you, yesterday it was pretty interesting. So tomorrow it's the Memorial Day, and it was actually this morning. And this morning, I'm taking my kids every day to the kindergarten. And we talked to my mom, and my mom told her, Mika and Leah, you're coming tomorrow to sleep, to sleep in our house because, you know, we have a Memorial Day. And then she told Leah, and my youngest Mika, she was very happy. She was like, yeah, we're going to grandmother to sleep. And then Leah, the oldest, she said, you can't be happy because we're going to, we're going to Raz, and Raz passed away. And it's a very sad day because we are commemorating Raz and other soldiers that passed away. And she's like 6 years old. And the way she's speaking about it, it's like completely amazed me. And this is from last year, which was a very strange Memorial Day. And I told the father that I'm gonna send you a picture for tomorrow and from Wednesday, that you will be able to see the differences. Because last year we did the Memorial Day from home, and this is like a day before because we couldn't allow to go to the grave. So we came, this is the Israeli way. We came a day before to all of us, all of the family, and this is my parents on the top. And you can see on the left my daughter and my brother grave. And this is this is our story, and it's a story of a family that that her life changed in few hours, but it's a story of a very, very brave mother that says that we are just growing up. And we are very, very busy in making our life full of doing. I'm also I'm working in the third sector, and my sister, my sister also, like we are doing a lot of stuff, and we are doing it in a very private way. And also to commemorate my brother, that he was such a person also. And I want to finish with a song. I don't know, I will send you a link that you will be able to hear it, because I wanted the opportunity to ask questions. And this is a song that my brother wrote, and actually was playing in the IDF radio in the past 2 years. And he wrote, and this is the way it goes. He wrote gray hours, very deep hours, lying in the huge bed and looking to the eternal sun. The time stand in a lack of clarity, but on the other hand, it ran out of speed. I play with my imagination, but in reality, everything collapses with a loud noise. Brain penetrated to the brain and bones. Turn off the frequency of thoughts. The eyelids are heavy and pupils expand. The darkness is spreading and it's time for the dusk. A smile on my face, weakness in my eyes. The time has come for inclusion. because the gray hours are over. That's it. Now we'll be really happy to answer some questions, and feel free to ask everything from my family to you know, everything that's going on now. And thank you very much for listening. And I hope that you know you got a little understanding of, you know, of those days, and in general, like the days that we, the families that lost their siblings and lost their loved ones in the army, are going through, you know, during the years and the way we live. That's it. Thank you very much.
Any question for Oded? You can unmute yourself if you want, or write on the chat before we are thanking Oded for his words and his
Yes, I have a question.
please.
Firstly, Oded, thank you so much for your honesty and authenticity and expressing some very difficult feelings and memories from your family. We in the diaspora are very grateful for what you and your family have done for the Jewish people in Israel. I'm just curious about your little girl. Where do you think she got all this knowledge about your brother? And is it something like a mikubala, is like a mystical thing, or is it just you talking about him regularly? Because it's a cute thing. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. I don't have I don't have an answer for you actually. It's something that, you know, that she first of all, it's really, she really interested in it, and she all the time when we going home every other weekend to my family house, she going upstairs to his room since she was like 2 or 3 years old. I don't have a question. I know that she's very, my wife all the time telling me that, you know, you need to talk to her, you need to tell her more stories, you need to share with her. I'm not doing it all the time because, you know, sometimes it's pretty hard, and you know, kids are asking very tough questions from time to time. But she's a very smart cookie, as say the English you know, terms.
Thank you.
Did someone ask about your life, about your future?
So since I become a shaliach, the social part of me become really I find it really important. And after the shlichut, by the way, I met my wife in the shlichut. My wife, she is the cousin of the first shaliach in the community. And you know, I asked him, Avi, I don't know if you know, if you remember Avi, but I asked Avi back then, I asked him like, you know, I told him that I want to go study in some, you know, place in Israel, and he told me, listen, you must talk to my cousin. And since then, you know, the rest is history. And I came back to Israel. I started to work in the Jewish agency, and after this, I worked in Masa Israel Experience, if you probably you are familiar with. And then I started my journey in the municipalities. I worked in an Arab city in Israel called Bakr El Garbia for like almost 2.5 years. And nowadays, I'm an executive director of a nonprofit organization in the field of non-formal education. We are working with kids from the periphery in the south of Israel, in Tel Aviv, Ashdod, and Beersheba. In Ashdod, Beersheba, and Arad. And what will be in the future? I don't know. I know that everything that I'm doing since I'm as a kid, I'm looking for this added value that I'm looking for, and I don't know what will be my next position. Maybe I will come back as a shaliach also in the next with my family, but we are thinking about it.
תודה. So, תודה, עודד. יום הזיכרון for Anat and Oded is not a unique day to remember.
Right.
They remember their loved ones all year round. They remember them on special days and birthdays. They remember them on holidays and celebrations. Yom HaZikaron is a unique day because we remember, because an entire nation remember. On this day, we remember the pain that the family carry with them every day. We remember that our independence has a heavy price. We remember those who have paid the price. Jews and non-Jews, Druze, Muslim, Bedouin, and Christian, all who have fallen in protecting the state of Israel. Thank you, Oded, for joining us today and sharing with us your family story and your personal story. It was really meaningful for me and for all the people that join us today. And thank you all for joining us today too.
Thank you so much, Oded. Thank you, Ifat, for organizing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.